There's nothing like getting a nice new car for your wife and then having it start throwing up check engine lights. This 2010 R350 was showing the P0128 code, which means the coolant temperature isn't getting warm enough quick enough. Unfortunately, this is usually the sensor that's going bad, not the thermostat. Also, unfortunately, the sensor is embedded in the thermostat, so you need to switch out the whole thermostat anyways. Here are the tools I think I'll use to do this. We'll see what tools I actually end up using at the end. Take the engine cover off of the top by popping it up and then pulling it out. And here we see, unfortunately again, that the bolts to do this job just happen to be blocked by a bunch of other things in the engine. Here you can see that the secondary air pump and the idler pulley both block one of the bolts that hold the thermostat on. Great. So you need to first take the drive belt off, gloves on, take a big wrench and a socket that fits over the tensioner, and pull counterclockwise to loosen the tensioner pulley. Now the belt comes right off. I have a diagram of how the belt serpentines its way around the front of the engine. There's just one belt for everything. You check this by bending it and looking for cracks. This one looks pretty good, so no need to change it. So now I'm going to take the idler pulley off with a double star socket. There's a wire clip that holds the hose into the thermostat. Now try to catch as much coolant as you can. You don't want a puddle under the car, and you don't want any of this on the belt. Belts don't like coolant. Something about coolant's mom yelled at it when the belt was a kid or something like that. The coolant cleans out pretty easily, and it won't leak anymore if you put a paper towel in the opening. Now you take the sensor connector off the thermostat. It's a little hard and brittle, so be careful. I'm putting some paper towels underneath the thermostat to try and catch all the coolant still behind it. Use the double star socket again to unscrew the bottom retaining bolt. Now the tough one. It's hard to get behind the secondary air pump to get the top bolt out. I bought one of these cool ratchet wrenches to make it easier. Which went pretty good until it freaking broke. So I had to resort to the old socket and extender. It's tight in there. One thing I should have done is loosen the bolt on top of the air pump. This lets it kind of rotate a bit out of the way. I found that out putting it all back together. So the socket was too deep to bite really well. Nice. I took it to the lathe and cut it down flush. This works much better. Now that the bolts are off, the thermostat comes off easily. Well, not too easily. It's stuck on pretty good. Tappy tap tap. There we go. Now we're going to clean off the old gasket. Here are the new and the old thermostats next to each other. The old one still looked fine, so it was probably still fine. Just the sensor was wonky. Here we go, putting on the new thermostat. The finish on the inside of the new thermostat was kind of sharp. I mean, you could probably shave your beard with this if you wanted to. Not good for coolant circulation, and you don't want any cavitation in there. And you don't want the little bits to come off when it's all back together. So I took a file to it and smoothed it out. Everything goes smoothly after that, pun always intended. Hook up the sensor connector wire. Now the idler pulley. Some of the coolant leaked out when I took the thermostat off, so I'm plugging up the thermostat and flushing out the front with water. Now the belt goes back on. Now the hose just plugs back in the thermostat. It clicks in, so make sure it clicks. I just gave it a gentle tap with a socket extension. Now you just fill it back up. Run it a bit with the heater on full and then top it off. Now the engine cover slides back on these tabs. And pops back down. So here are the tools I actually ended up using to do this, and also the lathe. Voila! No new error codes. Wifey happy.